Hello everybody, today is Saturday, February the 2nd. It's very late at night. It's probably very close to midnight, as usual for me. But I really had this fantastic idea for a card and I really just had to get it filmed. I am kind of winging it. I don't have my notes all written up. Usually I do. So I urge you to go to my blog post that will showcase this card as well for any of the measurements. Just in case, because it is late at night and I could make a mistake when I'm saying them. The card we're doing is this baby card. I'd made it in the 3 colors, but tonight we're actually going to be doing it in the crumb cake version. This has an action wobbler underneath the bear to make it kind of jiggle. The action wobblers are not available through Stampin' Up. You can see it back there. But you can get them almost at any scrapbooking store. I believe I found these ones at our scrapbooking store at Oshawa, Ontario, and called Class Act. I know you can probably order from them online, not sure. But they come in that size, which is what I used for these ones. And then I finished off that bag, and rather than open up the other bag, I'm actually going to use these bigger ones that I probably got at the same store. If you don't have action wobblers, or action wobbles, they're actually called, you can use a strip of just plain paper and score it maybe a 1/4 inch, and then accordion fold it back and forth, and then they kind of would sit up and wobble a bit as well. But I think the action wobbles actually work really nicely. The other thing about these cards is I actually made a spot to put a gift card in the center of it. So if you're mailing a gift, and rather than giving it an actual gift, if you want to give a gift card, it actually fits in there quite nicely. That's my scene card, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's get started and I'll show you what we need to do this crumb cake version of the card. You will need a card base. The card base I'm using is thick vanilla, very vanilla. It's scored down the center, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. It's going to be a top folding card. You may want to do it a side folding card because it is quite heavy with the gift card in it. It might not stand up the way you want it to stand up. I'm just going to kind of fold it. You will also need a scrap of very vanilla, just a small scrap. That's going to be for the sentiment at the front. You will need a piece of Whisper White, just the normal one. This is going to be to stamp the bear and the bear's bow. You don't need it quite this big, but I'm going to be using our Stamparatus for this. So just because the way they set up, I just needed a bigger piece. But if you didn't have the Stamparatus and you're just using blocks, which you can do, you wouldn't need a piece quite that big. You need a piece, scrap of crumb cake, and again, don't need that big, but that's just to go on the outline of the sentiment. You need a 1/4 sheet of berry vanilla, so that's 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. You're going to need a piece of 1/4 sheet of crumb cake, which is going to be at 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. You're going to need, I use Designer Series paper. I use the crumb cake one. This is different than the one I actually used because this is my last available sheet. And then there is a piece missing. There is a piece missing. You also need a piece of very vanilla at 2 1/2 inches by 4. I just don't know where it went to. That's okay. We'll make another. I'll cut another one, and then as soon as I cut the other one, it'll show up. I know. It always does. Oh, there it is. So 2 1/2 by 4, and this is to make the place for the gift card holder. This one you're going to have to do some scoring on, but I'm going to show you that in a second. So we have some stamping to do on the card. We have some stamping to do on the very vanilla piece, and on the scrap piece, and on that piece. So let's start with the fun part and do the bear first. I have the bear set up in my Stamparatus already. The reason for that is I was actually demonstrating it in some craft shows that I was in before Christmas, and I just never took him out. So I've left him in there. I'll probably still leave him in there for a little bit longer. The one thing about the Stamparatus that I really like is that you can actually buy extra plates, which are these things, because you can use both sides, so you can set up something and put it aside and move on to something else, but still have your what you wanted. If you wanted to repeat, if you want to make the same thing over and over again at the same position and everything is great. And that's what I've done in this case. As you can use blocks, I just find because I have it lined up perfectly right now, I don't really want to use my blocks when I have everything ready. You're going to start by stamping the lightest color with the part of the bear that actually has the most solid part. So in this case it would be this one, and that's going to be the lightest one, and I'm going to stamp that in crumb cake. Doesn't look like anything, I know, but it will. Okay, the next color we're going to use is going to be soft suede, and it's going to be the next most solid one, which is this one over here. Which I don't even think you can see on there, but... And now you can start seeing him come to life. And on the last one, which is on the other side of this plate, you just lift these out, flip it around, and I'm going to stamp him, which is the third one, in the early espresso. If you're using blocks, you just landmark it. So basically you can line up his two armpits, and usually that helps stamping him. And there we go. There's that bear. He's actually absolutely delightful. The other two that I did in a blueberry, with blueberry bushel, balmy blue, and night of navy. And then I did tranquil tide. What else? Bermuda Bay and Pool Party was the other color that I used. So that's all I need the Stamparatus for, so we'll just move this one aside. Remember, with the Stamparatus, it's not designed so you can fold both of them down like that. You always have to remove one of them. Now I'm going to stamp his bow as well on this piece, because we're going to fussy cut him out. Not a big deal. He's actually very simple. I've done them all three of my fussy cut out, and I was actually surprised how quick and easy it was. Now in this case, I actually find it easier to do the dark and the one with the less amount of solid coverage, which in this case is like the shading part of the bow, because then I can see it very, very clearly when I go to stamp it. If I did it the other way around, I just found it was harder for me to line them up. It looks a little weird, but it actually does work when we get the second one on. Yeah, I'm going to pull this one just a little bit closer to me, just so that I can kind of get above it and not get my hand right into it. And there we go. That's not too bad. Okay, now you would have to fussy cut those out, but I've actually already done those two. As they're pretty simple to do. I'll fussy cut that out later to make a different card or another card. So there's the bear and the little bow that we need for him. Okay, now we're going to stamp the outside of the card. I am going to use a piece of foam for this, just because it's photopolymer and it kind of needs it helps if it has a little bit of a cushion on it. You can use a mouse pad. I think this is a Sizzix one. You can use a mouse pad, and that gives it just a little bit more cushion on it. So what I did with the background, so what we're doing is we're worrying about this background right now. I just wanted to cover it up with some images, so I took them out of this Fastened With Love. I used the bear. I didn't use the other animals because it was a bear, so I wanted to use the bear. I used this little star image here, the little bow tie, and then some letters or words. And what I did was I mounted them on another clear block so that I didn't have to stamp so many times. And then I'm going to stamp it onto here. Now, some people prefer to start in the middle when you're doing something like this and then work out, because then you don't want, that way you don't have less of a chance of getting wide open spaces. But because my images are really, really small, it's very easy for me to take one off and just fill in whatever missing spots I have. So I'm not that worried about it. So I'm using crumb cake to coordinate with the background, and I'm just going to start stamping. And yes, I do want it to go off, but remember, I'm not going to be using this whole sheet, because I'm actually going to cut it out with our Stitched Rectangles dies. The other thing to keep in mind is to keep turning your stamp so that you're not ending up with some weird pattern forming. I should have taken my bracelet off so it wouldn't make so much noise, but too late now. I got a blotch up there, but that's okay. I don't think it's going to be there when we finish. Okay, so for the most part, it's all filled in. I do have a couple of spots that, or at least one spot that I'd like to fill in. So I'm just going to take off. The little bow and add it to a small block, and then I can just fill in any spots that I think that need something else. Which I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so that's that done. Now we need to stamp the sentiment that's going to go on the outside, which is something for baby. I'm doing this also in the crumb cake. It doesn't really matter where it is because I'm going to cut it out as well with the die. And then on the inside, we're going to stamp to hug and to hold from this day forward. And we're going to stamp it closer to the top because we need the gift card holder to go underneath that. I'm going to try to do it without, I think I just messed it up. Oh, I got a little splotch, and I know it's not even, but it'll have to do. Now I'm taking the little bear that we used earlier, and I'm sticking him back onto a different, same smaller block, and just going to stamp him once right in the corner. What I will probably do to fix the wording, because it is kind of even, I will probably just cut out a piece and redo it and glue it on top, and that'll be fine. That's that, that's that, that's that. And I think that's all our stamping. Of course, if I forgot, we'll come back and do something. now we're going to do the gift card holder for the inside, which I have lost again. Okay, so the gift card holder needs to have some scoring done on it. So I'm going to bring in my scoreboard. Normally I don't do scoring. Usually I just leave it. I do it off camera because I just find it easier than bringing in this big scoreboard. But in this case, I think it might be easier to explain. We need to score the 3 sides. We're going to leave the top side open. And you're going to score it at 1/4 inch on the 3 sides. Hopefully you're not seeing my head. Okay, now this top piece here is going to have a little hole notched out of it because I'm not great with eyeballing it. We're going to kind of mark it. So it's at 4 inches. So the center mark is 2 inches. And because I'm using a 3/4 inch punch, I'm going to go over 3/8 on each side. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And this just kind of gives me a guideline. And I'll show you what I mean in 2 seconds. This is a 3/4 inch punch. You can use whichever one you want. Where those notches are, I know that where the center is needs to be in the center of this. And I need to make sure that I'm kind of in between the other 2 notches or pencil lines that I made. I'm not even going halfway. It's probably more like, probably just over 1/4. And again, I can't get really super close to it because I'm trying to keep out of the camera. And then there's a little notch to pull your card out. Now I can tell I'm a little bit further over than I want it to be, but I'm sure it's probably not off by enough to really notice. Okay, now we're going to score, or I mean, what do you call that? Burnish, I guess, to burnish our score lines. I think I'm going to take my bracelet off because it's driving me crazy. I can only imagine what it's going to sound like when I play this back. Okay, there we go. That's better. Now we have to cut a little bit. Not a lot. Normally if it involves scissors I don't want to do it, but this is nothing. That little tiny little square right there on either side, we need to cut out. So we're just going to cut up. And usually I try to get it so that the score line isn't there. So just to make it neater. And we're going to do that to both sides where that little square is. There we go. And then you're going to just kind of notch it or miter it, whatever you want to call it, just so that it will lie, the little pocket will lie flat. We're also going to do it on the top. And nobody's going to see it, so you don't have to worry about it, but it just helps it lie flat. Okay, now we're going to get ready to put this in. I found you could use glue. I just find it a little bit easier to use tear and tape, but our tear and tape, Stampin' Up's tear and tape is a little bit too thick. If you want to use it, just make your pouch a little bit bigger and then score a little bit wider, and then you'll be able to use it. I'm going to use what I have in my stash. I don't know where I got it from. I've had it for years. It's probably 1/8 of an inch maybe. And I'm going to turn it over and tape it. You do want something that's really, really strong though here. because you're going to be putting a gift card in and out, so you want it really, really strong. And yes, I am going over where the spot is, but I'm going to cut that little extras off because I want it to go right to the very edge of my flaps. Okay. Now I'm just going to take my scissors and actually just cut off little pieces right across where the paper ends. There we go. Now we'll take the little protective pieces off. Okay, I'm going to fold the bottom one in. Let me flip it up so you can see what I'm saying. And then fold the sides in against it. I'm just trying to catch it a little bit to make it easier for me to stick it down where I want it to go. So it's kind of formed that pocket. Now we're bringing our project, flip it over, and then try to eyeball it so it's nice and perfect in the middle. And there we go. And hopefully our card goes in there quite nicely. Yep, perfect. That's the inside of the card done. Now for the outside, we're going to have to do some die cutting. We're going to die cut that, we're going to die cut that, and this. So for the crumb cake piece, we need the largest one. No, sorry. Where's the pattern? Crumb cake's going to be the second largest. This one's going to be the third largest. You know what? I had to check what I did. No, we did use the largest one. Largest one for the crumb cake. Middle one for the second one for that. This one we did not use. Okay, I'm not going to show you the actual die cutting because I'm pretty sure you can figure it out. I love these tissue rectangles. I've used them in a lot of cards. Okay, put that one back. And we'll cut this one. There's that. Okay, now we're going to use the smallest one to cut the sentiment out. This is going to be a little bit longer video than I normally like to do. I was going to do it as a Facebook Live, probably a good thing I didn't. And then we're going to do, we need the outside for the sentiment, so we'll use the next size up on the, I know you can't see what I'm doing because I'm kind of half off, but it doesn't all fit. So I'll use the next one up of the stitched rectangles, and we're going to cut one of those out. bend that one. I was taking it out, but it'll be fine. Okay, so now I think we can put our card together. For the pattern piece, I'm just, because it's not as thick as normal cardstock, I prefer not to use liquid glue on it, so I'm going to use just a tape runner. I don't see my snail anywhere, but so I'll use some contraband. And this is the first layer that will go on. And then we will put the crumb cake piece down. This one I will use some Tombow. I could also use a tape runner, but I do find that Tombow's really strong. I'm trying to do it without getting my head in the shot, and it's a little bit difficult to line it up exactly the way I want it to be lined up without actually getting right over top of it. And even though Tombow does give you a little bit of time, this doesn't give you tons of time. Okay, now our stamped piece. I know when I'm going to be reviewing this video, I'm going to see all these things that are crooked, but that's okay. Now the sentiment we're going to glue down. A lot of times when I'm using glue, when I'm not doing it in front of the camera, I actually put another block on top of it just to try to keep it flat and let it dry nicely and adhere nicely. Okay, now the bear. Here's the action wobbler. I don't know if I might need my, oh no, here it comes. I don't want this protruding over the edge of the bear, so I'll have to kind of be careful where I put it. Oh, yeah, we're good. And then we'll take the backing off. There we go. Stick them right down. I don't know if he's crooked or he's not crooked. But once he's down, he's down. He's not going anywhere. Okay, for the little bow, you can just glue them down, but I'm actually using some dimensionals, just little tiny pieces that I cut because this is actually too big for a full-size dimensional. I mean, the dimensionals are too big for the bow. So I just cut the side ones off. And I'll stick them there. And there's something sticky on the back. But there we go. This one's actually really wobbly, and maybe that's because it's the bigger one. And then the inside with my crooked sentiment. But you get the picture. Very pretty, very adorable cards to make. Yeah, I do find this one's a lot more wobbly than the smaller ones. But there we go. There you have it. Very simple to make. A lot easier to line it up when you can get right up above it. Crumb cake. Earliest. Okay, so I don't know exactly what happened there. My camera decided it had had enough, and it shut off on me towards the end of the video, so I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. So there are the cards that we made today. This is the one we actually made today. Actually, no, this one is, because it's the one that was crooked. I also did them in blue, and I did them in a green combination. If you're interested in any of the products I used today, including the Baby Bear stamp set, please head over to my online store at www.dragonfliescreations.stampinup.net. Use this host code here. It will be in the description below. If your order is over $40, you will actually receive a cardstock pack enough to make 4 cards of the Lasting Lily cards that I showed you in the previous video. So if your order is over $120, you'd be able to purchase a Lasting Lily stamp set free of charge with your order of $120 during celebration, which is kind of great. That stamp is absolutely gorgeous. If your order is over $200, please don't use this host code. Just order normally online, and I will still send you the cardstock pack that you need to complete those cards. But once your order hits $200, you do get Stampin' Up rewards. Also remember, during celebration, if your order is over $300, you actually get additional Stampin' rewards. So if you're close to $300, you might want to spend a little bit extra and get so you can get the extra rewards. You can head on over to my online store to get all the details. Thanks everybody, and I hope to see you real soon.